Chuck Norris couldn't or wouldn't do. The 86-year-old, long deemed invincible, has died suddenly, leaving his legion of fans in shock.
9 days before he left this world, an 86-year-old man stood in Hawaiian sun, threw punches in the open air, and posted the video himself. The caption read, "I don't age, I level up." 9 days later, he was gone. The man the internet had declared dead in hoaxes too many times to count had quietly actually passed away, not in a viral rumor, not in a fabricated headline, but on a real Tuesday morning in March of 2026. And what he left behind moved his family in ways that no camera ever captured. This is the story of Chuck Norris. What he built, what he fought for, what he kept secret for nearly 3 decades, and why the fortune he left behind is only the beginning of understanding who he really was. On March 19, 2026, Chuck Norris was rushed to a hospital on the island of Hawaii. He had been staying at the oceanfront property on the North Shore, a home he and his wife Gina had treasured for years. Hours after that emergency hospitalization, he was pronounced dead at 86 years old. His family released a brief, careful statement asking for privacy and declining to disclose the cause of death. But one line in that statement stopped people cold. They wrote, "Thank you for loving him. Not thank you for watching his movies. Not thank you for the memes. Thank you for loving him." That single line told you more about the man than any film he ever made. Within hours, former President Donald Trump posted a tribute calling Chuck a great guy and a really good tough cookie. CBS, the very network that had once faced him in court over tens of millions of dollars in unpaid royalties, issued a warm and glowing statement. Hollywood mourned in a single voice. Even though Chuck Norris has spent the better part of 2 decades pushing back against it from the outside, the tributes poured in from every corner. From martial artists, from military veterans, from school children who had passed through his Kickstart Kids Foundation, and from millions of ordinary people who had simply grown up watching him kick bad guys across a Texas landscape every Saturday night. The financial world scrambled almost immediately to answer the obvious question: what did he leave behind? According to Celebrity Net Worth, cited by Fortune magazine and referenced in Newsweek's coverage of his passing, the estate is valued at approximately $70 million. But that number tells you almost nothing interesting on its own. The real story is how he built it, who gets it, and why a significant piece of that fortune almost never existed at all. The Lone Wolf Ranch sits on approximately 1,000 acres in Grimes County, Texas, near Navasota. It had been the family's full-time home since Chuck stepped away from Hollywood around 2012. The ranch is not simply a piece of land. It became the foundation of an entirely separate business empire after discovery that nobody planned for. In 2011, workers drilling for water on the property accidentally struck a 23,000-year-old artesian aquifer buried beneath volcanic rock. That accident became a company. Chuck and Gina founded C4's bottling company in 2015, building a production facility on the ranch capable of filling 400 bottles per minute. C4's water now sells across all 48 contiguous states. Here's a detail that matters most to the family going forward. Gina O'Kelly holds a controlling 51% stake in C4 as its CEO. That means regardless of how the rest of the estate is divided among the children, the company stays entirely in her hands. The business Chuck built from an accidental discovery beneath his own property remains under the roof of the woman he spent 5 months sleeping beside on a hospital couch to keep alive, beyond the ranch in C4. The estate includes a Kauai vacation property worth an estimated $7 million. The very home where he spent his final days. It includes royalties for more than 30 years of films. It includes income from the Total Gym infomercial partnership with Christy Brinkley, which ran for nearly 30 years across 85 countries and sold over 4 million units, making it one of the longest-running celebrity fitness partnerships in television history. After his death, Brinkley wrote publicly that bringing her on board had been Chuck's idea entirely and that she was forever grateful. The estate also includes book royalties, endorsement income, and the syndication revenue from a television show that aired in more than 100 countries, a show that CBS once tried to pretend had stopped making making money. Noah has been made public under Texas community property law. Gina, as a surviving spouse, inherits half of the marital estate by default. The remainder flows to his children. There are 5 of them. From 2 marriages and 1 chapter's life, he kept completely hidden from the public for nearly 30 years. Before there was a ranch, before there was Walker, before there was a single frame of film, there was a boy in Ryan, Oklahoma, who described himself as neurotic and shy. Carlos Ray Norris was born on March 10, 1940, and he nearly did not survive the delivery. He arrived as what doctors called a blue baby, entering the world with dangerously low oxygen levels. His mother, Wilma, was a devout Christian woman who raised 3 boys essentially alone while working whatever job she could find. His father, Ray, was a World War II veteran who came home broken and turned to alcohol, disappearing for months at a time. Chuck wrote that the house actually felt calmer when his father was gone. The family moved from Oklahoma to Kansas to California, chasing work that never quite paid enough. Chuck graduated from North Torrance High School in 1958, a slightly built, non-athletic teenager who had, by his own honest admission, never succeeded at anything truly difficult. Nobody who knew him then would have predicted any of what followed. He enlisted in the Air Force that same year, and in the same year, he married his high school sweetheart, Diane Holchek. She was 17 years old. He was 18. The Air Force sent him to South Korea. And that is where everything changed. At Ozan Air Base, he stumbled into a Tang Soo-Do class and was completely transfixed. He trained 4 hours a day, 5 nights a week, under a Korean master named Shin Jae-chul. In 13 months, he earned his black belt. He later wrote 7 words that explained everything that came after. The first time in my life, I had accomplished something difficult on my own. That sentence is the entire foundation. Martial arts did not just give Chuck Norris a skill. It gave him the belief that he was a person capable of doing hard things. And once a person genuinely believes that, they spend the rest of their life finding hard things to do. When he was discharged in 1962, he tried to become a police officer and was put on a waiting list. While he waited, he taught karate in his parents' backyard. Within a few years, he had built a chain of more than 30 karate studios across Southern California. His students included Steve McQueen, Priscilla Presley, and Bob Barker. He became a 6-time professional karate champion and won the Karate Triple Crown in 1969. And then one evening at a tournament in New York City, he met Bruce Lee, and a friendship began that would redirect the entire second half of his life. Walker, Texas Ranger premiered on CBS on April 21st, 1993, and it nearly collapsed before it found its audience. The original production company, Canon Television, went bankrupt during the first season. Only the pilot and 2 additional episodes had been completed before funding disappeared. The show was a moment away from cancellation when CBS looked at the premiere numbers, a 16.5 rating, a 27 share, meaning more than a quarter of all televisions in use that Saturday night were tuned to a show about a karate-fighting Texas Ranger. CBS found new production partners and saved it. What followed was 9 seasons, 203 episodes, and a distinction of being the first primetime drama in American television history filmed entirely in the state of Texas. Chuck controlled creative direction through a production company. Top Kid Productions insisted on moral storylines consistent with his Christian faith, employed his brother Aaron as co-producer, and sang the theme song himself. CBS would later credit the Norris brothers with 9 years of consistently on-budget, on-time production. Something Hollywood does not take for granted. His deal included $375,000 per episode and 23% of all profits. Across 203 epasodes, his acting fees alone approached $76 million. Syndication pushed everything higher. USA Network paid $750,000 per episode in 1997. Court documents filed years later revealed total franchise revenue exceeding $692 million. That last number is where things turned dark. In 2018, Norris sued CBS and Sony Pictures Television,
in late 2012,
alleging they owed him more than $30 million in
symptoms
unpaid
escalated
profits.
into burning
His legal team
sensations throughout
documented
her
that
body,
CBS had structured its
violent
streaming
tremors,
and distribution
kidney
deals in
damage.
a way that
Gina
avoided
did her own
triggering its
research and
participation
concluded
clause
that the
and had reported
gadolinium
zero
had
streaming
deposited
revenue to him
permanently
since
in her body
2004.
and aired in more
The
than
case
100
moved through the
countries.
courts for 5 years before
When she
being settled in
presented this to
July
her Houston medical
2023
team, they
for an
dismissed it,
undisclosed amount.
meaning
Whatever
the business
CBS paid to
stays in her
close that
hands
case is
regardless
now
of
part of
how
the estate his
rest of
family
estate
is
is
currently
divided.
inheriting. Chuck
Approximately
Norris built his
1,000
public image on a
acres in
very
her.
specific
His estate
foundation.
includes the Lone
Strong,
Wolf
faithful,
Ranch on
family
Kauai,
man, Christian
worth an
conservative.
estimated $7
And by most
it includes
accounts,
royalties from
that
over
image was
30
genuine.
years of films.
But there was one thing
Chuck
buried
described
inside that
seeing
life that he
death
kept
in her
entirely
eyes
hidden from the
and
public
knowing he
for
was
almost
losing her.
30 years.
He told
In
interviewers
August of
plainly
1962,
that he had given
while
up
awaiting
his
his
film
Air
career
Force
to keep
discharge
her
in
alive.
Riverside, California,
She was rushed
Chuck
to the
met a woman
emergency
named
room
Johanna.
multiple nights
He
in a
did not
row.
tell her he was married.
It includes a
Their
vacation
brief
home on
relationship
book
produced a
income,
daughter
endorsement
named Dina,
fees.
born
No
in
will
February
has
of
been made
1963.
And there is
Johanna
one more
discovered
secret
he was
buried
married,
in that family
raised
story
Dina entirely
that
alone,
almost nobody
and eventually
outside
married another man.
in the final chapter
When Dina
of
was
his
16
life,
years
Chuck
old,
Norris
her mother
lost
finally
both his
told her
mother
the truth,
and his first
but gave her a
wife
clear
within months of
instruction:
each other.
do not make
Then
contact.
followed them before
He has a
spring
wife.
arrived.
He has children.
The European
do not
Medicines
interfere.
Agency
For 26
suspended
years,
3 products
Dina
outright.
carried the name of a father
The
she had never
lawsuit was
met and
voluntarily
never
dismissed
contacted.
in January
Then
2020
Chuck and Diane's
with no
divorce became
settlement.
public in
Each side
1989.
paid its own
2
legal
years
fees.
later, Dina wrote
That
a letter.
detail does not
Chuck
make it
described the
into
moment
most
of their first
headlines,
meeting in his
but it matters
2004
deeply to
memoir,
understanding who
Against
this man
All
was
Odds.
at the very end.
He wrote that he walked into his
Before
living
there
room,
was a single
saw her
roundhouse
standing
kick
there, and
on
knew
screen.
immediately, without
After
any
his
test,
death,
without any
Brinkley wrote that
documentation,
bringing her on board
exactly
had been
who she
Chuck's
was.
idea
He
entirely.
saw his own
Subsequently
face looking
voted
back
to
at
add
him.
new
They both
warning
wept on the
labels
spot.
to
The
gadolinium
line he wrote
contrast
next
agents.
became one of the most quoted
In
things he ever said outside of
2017,
film.
the Norrises
There
filed
might
a
be
$10
illegitimate
million
parents in the
lawsuit
world.
against
I know
11
because I was
pharmaceutical
one,
companies.
but there are no
The
illegitimate
fortune
children.
and the fight
Dina
over
was
his
welcomed
legacy.
fully into family.
The $70 million
In 2015,
there was a boy in
Chuck
Ryan,
posted
Oklahoma,
a public vacation
who was
photo
so
from
shy,
Hawaii
he
that
described
included
himself
Dina,
as
her
neurotic.
husband, and their
It
grandson.
was, by most
Almost
accounts,
nobody noticed
the project he
because
was
by then
most proud
the
of.
myth had fully
A
swallowed the
slightly
man.
built,
In
non-athletic
late
teenager
2012,
who had,
Gina
by
O'Kelly
his own
underwent 3
description,
MRI scans
never
within 8
succeeded.
days
The
to
family
evaluate
moved from
rheumatoid
Oklahoma
arthritis.
to Kansas
Each scan
to
required an
California,
injection of a
chasing
gadolinium-based
work
contrast
that
agent,
never paid enough.
a substance designed to pass harmlessly through the body within hours. In Gina's case, it never left. Within hours of first injection, she described her entire body feeling
Gina controls
as though it was on fire.
51%
She was
as
rushed to the
CEO,
emergency room multiple
meaning the
nights in
company
a row.
stays entirely
Symptoms
in her hands
escalated into
as the
burning
estate
sensations
settles
throughout her
around
body, violent
Chuck
tremors, kidney
graduated from
damage,
North Torrance High School
partial
in
loss of function in her
1958.
left arm,
He was a
cognitive
devoted
difficulties,
Christian
and muscle
who said
deterioration,
publicly that faith
so
was
severe
the
she was
most
eventually
important
surviving
thing
on
about
baby
him.
food.
The
Doctors
argument
tested
over
her
who
for
Chuck
cancer,
Norris
ALS,
actually was
Parkinson's, and
ignited
multiple
the moment
sclerosis.
he died.
Every result came
T-Force
back
Water
negative.
now sells
Gina
in all
concluded the
48
gadolinium had
contiguous
deposited
states.
permanently in
He
her
arrived
tissue.
as what doctors
Presented
called
this theory to
a
her
blue
Houston
baby,
medical team
meaning he
and was
entered the world
dismissed.
with
Chuck
dangerously
contacted
low
an
oxygen,
integrated
its own
physician
engine.
in Reno,
In 2011,
rented a private plane and a
workers drilling
paramedic,
for water
and transported
accidentally
Gina
struck a
across the country for
23,000 and
chelation
that
therapy.
she was
Testing
forever
confirmed her
grateful.
gadolinium
Outside
levels
of his
were,
inner circle
in the
knew
treating
about.
doctor's words,
For nearly
literally
the Lone Wolf
off the
Ranch
charts.
became its
Chuck
own.
slept
He
beside her
endorsed
bed on a
Mike
couch
Huckabee
for
in a
5 months.
2007
He read her
campaign
17
ad
books
that
out loud.
changed that
He
primary
flew her to
race,
China
then
for stem
endorsed
cell
Donald
treatments.
Trump for
He told
2016.
reporters plainly that he had
The
walked away
backlash
from his film
was
career
immediate
to
and
keep his
fierce.
wife alive.
And the
The
debate
total
had
financial
barely
cost
started.
from 2012
After
to
his death,
2017
an
was
entertainment
approximately
outlet published
$2
a
million,
piece arguing that his
almost
politics
entirely
had
out of pocket.
overshadowed his
In
legacy.
2017, both
He was
Chuck
a
and
longtime
Gina testified
NRA
before the
spokesman.
FDA's advisory committee.
Drop your
The
thoughts in the
FDA
comments
subsequently
below.
voted to add new
Not a
warning
fight
labels to
scene.
gadolinium contrast agents.
Not a fight.
And
Not
the
a
European
film. Our
Medicines
estate was
Agency
not built on
suspended
movies
3
alone.
products
3
outright.
decades.
The lawsuit
Nearly
they filed
3
against
Grimes
11
County
pharmaceutical
in Navasota,
companies was
Texas.
voluntarily
But
dismissed
that number
in
alone
January
tells you
2020
almost nothing
with no
interesting.
settlement reached.
The far
But the
more
warning
compelling
labels
story story
exist.
is how
That
he
outcome
built
mattered
Chuck
to them
had
more than
spent
money.
years pushing
His
back
Kickstart
against
Kids
it
Foundation,
from the outside.
launched in
Financial
1990 with the
publications
support of
scrambled
President
to
George
answer
H.W.
was
Bush.
this: what did
Grew
he
to serve
actually
58
leave
Texas
behind?
schools and more than 120,000 young people over his lifetime. By
Within
most
hours,
accounts from those who knew
Donald
him
Trump
well,
posted a
this was the
tribute calling
project he was
Chuck
most
a great
proud
guy.
of. Not a
and
film,
a really good
not a
tough
meme,
cookie.
not a world
Beneath
record in
all
the
the
number of
roundhouse
push-ups
kick
credited to his
featuring
name
Dina,
on the
her
internet.
husband,
A
and their
room
two
full of teenagers
grandsons on
learning
the
that
same
discipline
island
is
where
not
he
something
would
that
later
happens
die.
to you.
Remembering Walker.
It is something you build inside
Thank
yourself.
you for loving him.
And it follows you
Kiss and
everywhere
the
you go.
legends.
One
Even
member of
though
his family who will
question
not be there for any of what
from
comes
Kauai,
next is his first
there
wife,
might be
Diane
illegitimate parents
Hochek.
in the world.
She died
I
in
know
December
because
2025,
I was one.
just 3 months before
Thank you
Chuck,
for loving him.
after a long battle
Thank
with
you for
dementia.
watching his
Their
movies.
2 sons, Mike and
wrote,
Eric, were
Thank
with
you
her
for
until the
remembering
end.
what I
In the
didn't
final
need
chapter of his
DNA
life,
or blood
Chuck
tests.
Norris lost his mother,
He saw his
his
own
first
face
wife,
looking
then
back
followed
at
them
him.
before spring
They both
arrived.
wept
That sequence of
immediately.
losses does not
He
make it
wrote
into
that
most
in
of the
the instant
headlines,
he saw
but it is
her,
essential to
he knew
understanding who
without
this
any
man
test or
was at the very end.
oceanfront
He had
home
5
owned
children
on the
in
North
total.
Shore.
Mike
The
became a
property he
Christian
and his wife
filmmaker.
Gina had
Eric
fallen
became
in
one of
love with
Hollywood's
years
most respected
earlier.
stunt coordinators
He was 86
and won a
years
NASCAR
old,
championship
March 19th,
in 2002.
2026.
The twins
The phone
Dakota
call.
and Danny Lee,
Nobody saw
born in
coming.
2001,
On March 9th,
grew up
he
on a
had been
Texas ranch
vacationing
they
there
now
at the
inherit a
oceanfront.
share
The
of,
man the world
and
spent
Dina,
years declaring
the
dead
daughter
in
he never
hoaxes.
knew for 26 years
9
and
days
then never
later,
let go of,
he was gone.
proved that the man
Throwing
behind the legend
punches
was
in the
far more
Hawaiian
complicated
sun. That
and
image
far
was
more
genuine.
human than
Both
any
his
film
mother
or internet
and
joke
his first
ever allowed him
wife
to
within
appear.
months of each
The
other.
estate is real.
Then followed
The
them
ranch,
before spring
the water
arrived.
company, the royalties,
That detail does not
the
make it
lawsuit
into
settlement,
most headlines.
the property in Kauai.
Products outright.
All of it is real,
The
and it is
lawsuit
being
was
divided right now
voluntarily
among the
dismissed
people
in
who loved
January
him.
2020
The debate over his
with no
political
settlement.
legacy, his faith,
Each side
his complicated
paid its
private
own
history,
legal fees.
his decades of
Now,
Hollywood battles.
when Norris himself is
that
gone,
argument has already
let's
started,
tell you
and it
what
will not
matters
end
deeply
quietly.
to
But
understanding
the
who
reason
this
his
man
family
was
chose
at
the
very
words they
end.
chose,
And there is one
thank you
more
for loving
secret
him,
buried
is
in
that the man
family
behind the
story,
legend was
that
always worth
there was a
loving for
boy in
reasons that
Ryan,
had nothing to do
Oklahoma,
with
who was
roundhouse
so
kicks
shy,
or action
had been
films
Chuck's
or
idea
memes.
entirely,
He was a frightened
and
boy
that
from
she was
Oklahoma who
forever
found one
grateful.
thing he was good at,
It remains
built an entire
agents.
life on top of that one
The
discovery,
European Medicines
made real
Agency
mistakes,
suspended
took real
$3
responsibility for them,
lawsuit
and
against
spent his final
11
years sleeping on a
pharmaceutical
hospital
companies.
couch to save the woman he
Both
loved.
testified
That is
before
the
the
fortune he
FDA's
actually leaves
advisory
behind.
committee. The $70
The $70
million
million
estate was not
is just
built
the
on
part you
movies
can count.
alone. The total Jim